Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our sourdough workshop where we will learn how to make sourdough really from the start. This is a beginner's recipe that we're going to use, and it's going to help you to really understand the process. So our first step this morning is to feed our starter. Our first feeding is not going to be in order to bake with the starter, but merely to understand how our starter behaves, what the temperature in our house is like, how to know when our starter is active, and then later this evening we will do our second feeding, and that feeding is going to grow and activate during the night, and in the morning we're going to mix our bread, and we'll do all that tomorrow. So right now what I need is a clean jar, a weight so I can really accurately weight how much starter and flour and water I'm using. And I will need my starter. Now I have a starter that always sits in my fridge. That's this jar, and maybe you can see it's quite liquidy inside. Okay, and this starter is actually this jar is my discard jar, because every time we're going to feed our starter, it's going to grow. But we will only need a little bit of that starter in order to bake bread. And the rest of it goes into my discard jar. And my discard can be used for many different recipes, but it's also my backup starter jar. It's always in my fridge, so wherever I need it. And here I have some starter that I fed yesterday. You can see it's all bubbly. I've marked the time yesterday. It was 11 when I did mix it together, and it grew a little bit, but since then it actually also started to decline a little bit. That means that it's kind of past its peak right now, but I can still use it. But what we're going to do is just feed a new starter right now, and then we're going to see how it behaves. So to feed your starter, you will need some white bread flour. And later on, we'll also talk about feeding your starter with other flours. But today, and actually during this whole workshop, we're only using white bread flour or all-purpose flour if that's what you have. So I'm going to start by zeroing out my scale and adding 30 grams of starter into my clean jar. Okay, mine says 31, and that's fine if it's a little bit more. Then I'm going to add 45 grams of water. This is just normal tap water, room temperature. It can be cold as well. Now I'm just going to loosely stir it just to release it a little bit. Zero out my scale, and now I'm going to add my flour. And I'm going to be adding 55 grams of flour. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just really stir everything together. You can put some force into it. We're making a stiff starter. That means that we have more flour over water. Scraping down the edges. I really want everything in this jar to come together. And when I see everything is together, I'm just scraping everything down. And then I'm going to mark it. And by marking, I mean that I want everything to be kind of equally down there. And I'm going to bring a marker. And I'm going to be marking where my starter is right now, which is here. The time is about 9:20. My kitchen, where I'm in right now, is actually quite cold right now. So what I'm going to do is place it in my living room or my dining area, which is probably around 20 degrees. It's about 17 right now in my kitchen. And I just want to see some activity with my starter. If it's going to be too cold, that's going to be a problem. So that's why I'm going to, right now, put the lid on it loosely. I'm going to turn it a bit, but kind of loosely. Put it in my dining area or living room. And then I'm going to show you the growth. Probably around 4 o'clock today. That's when it will be peaking, depending on the temperature in our house. So if you can please feed your starter the same way that I did. In your jar, mark it with a rubber band or with a marker or with a sticky note. And if you can please send me a picture of that, then we'll see when we started, and we'll see where we'll be during the day. Good luck.